All right, here we go. A legal podcast. I think we're just going to go with the name Law and Sporter. Law and Sporter. Justin Watkins is here from Battleborn Injury Lawyers. Adam Hill is here as well. I want to jump right into the news of the day and get Adam's take and then get Justin's take. Do we have any update on the Raiders? While many teams are sitting out the last couple of days, canceling games, canceling practices, delaying practices, team votes, team discussions. The Raiders are scheduled tomorrow to practice at Allegiant Stadium. What's the latest on that? Are they going to do it?
Yeah, as far as I know, the plan is still to be going over there and to have their practice. Certainly, things could change. I know Trent Brown was just tweeting, about we need to be heard, and if you're not with us, get out of the way, kind of stuff. So I think there's certainly some socially aware players on the team, and I think certainly they'll be willing to speak out about it as soon as we can talk to them. But as of right now, everything is planned to go. It's a very small thing, and I think in the grand scheme of things, the social issues are far more important, of course. But it is the last time they're going to be able to go to the stadium. It's the last thing they have set up. So I don't know if they want to have that practice, do it at the next practice, or if they don't want to participate at all. We know several teams today voted to actually go through with practice. So maybe they will, and maybe they'll save something for week one and do something then and figure it out. Now, I would definitely point out, as Brady asked, who are the leaders on the team. It's weird because there's so many players that are new, so many young players that have just come in. Jonathan Abram has kind of established himself as a leader, even though he's so young. Obviously, Carr is, but the weird thing about the Raiders is that there was the issues with Carr a couple years ago, and whatever you want to believe about what happened during the Kaepernick situation and whether the offensive linemen were mad at Derek Carr for not speaking out and joining them, and whether it's true that they allowed him to get sacked 150 times in one game, which was like the most embarrassing offensive line performance you've ever seen if it wasn't on purpose. I don't know, but there was at least chatter, and that was before I was covering the team, but at least chatter that there were some things going on around Carr at that time. So I don't know if things have changed or if anything was even there, but I think it will be interesting to see how this team responds.
Justin, what do you think of all this?
I don't know. I think I'm going to go to the NHL and the fact that they were sort of criticized yesterday for continuing to play, and then today canceled today's games and tomorrow's games. And I thought, man, it might be a little late for that to really actually make an impact or speak to the issue. But then when they did the press conference today, and Reeves and Edward Belmar,
PEB.
There you go. And a couple of other players were at the forefront, and Reeves did a lot of talking. And from my perspective, I thought what they delivered as their message was really good, which was, hey, we're a white-dominated sport, and the white players have reached out to the players of color and said, we're with you. How do we do this? What's the best way? It sounded like Reeves was not going to play today if the Golden Knights were going to play. And it sounds like some players knew that. He said Canucks players reached out to him first thing in the morning. Some people from the Toronto bubble reached out, and his message was, it's important for young players of color, young kids of color, to recognize that this sport that is predominantly a white sport supports diversity, supports social justice, and supports players of color. And that's why we're doing this. And I thought that was an excellent message. So I guess it depends on why they're, what they're trying to accomplish in doing it. If the idea is that if I don't go to practice, that this police violence will stop. I don't know how effective that is. I think the cumulative of, when a bunch of people get together and do it and show the unity seems to be a little bit more effective messaging, but I'm also not exactly the target audience either. So, I don't fault anybody for exerting their rights. And I have to say, yesterday when the NBA said, we're not playing, and there was no discussion with the NBA. There was no discussion with the NBA Players Association. The players just did it. I love when the players exert their power because I think they have way more power than they ever show. They often show it in contract negotiations for money, but outside of that, it was a strike yesterday, and I like that. Oh, we lost your audio, Steve.
Adam, your prediction on when the NHL is back?
I think they'll play Saturday. That seems like the time it would line up, and I think they'll try to maybe jam as many games as they can so they don't fall too far off of the schedule that they've set. They did spend a lot of time working on that schedule, and believe me, I'm not saying that matters. It's just, they want to get back to, for TV purposes, somewhat in line where they were. So I think they would try to play Saturday, depending on what kind of answers the players get. I think that they're going to go and talk to the teams and talk to the owners and find out exactly what can be done about what they want to start working toward and how much can get agreed to, and then they can move forward. And if that happens, if they get some sort of commitment, I imagine that they look at starting to play again Saturday or Saturday, Sunday, somewhere in that range. I don't think it's going to be too long, but it will be interesting to see exactly what they try to get out of this. Because again, you can't just sit out and say, well, we've done our part, we sat out. Like now everything's fixed, right? Like it doesn't work that way. Like you have to do it to get the attention and get the focus, and then use it to make positive steps and real steps that can be attained.
Yeah, and I think they do have a lot of flexibility in the schedule. As you remember, they moved up round 2 because round 1 ended earlier, so They actually are like sort of 2 days ahead of schedule anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
So this sort of actually puts them probably real close to their original schedule. But I agree with you. If it's a sit out and that's it, and let's call it what it is. Theirs was coordinated with the NHL and the NHLPA. It was not a strike. It was an agreement. And so what else was agreed to? What are we going to do? What's going to be the messaging moving forward? I thought today they did a great job. The players did a great job. But again, if all they did was sit out so that they could say they're in solidarity, but then actually don't do anything else, what's the lasting effect? I don't know. I tend to agree a little bit with what Reeve said today, which is, hey, you've got players of color standing up front and a whole bunch of white players standing behind them saying, we're here too. We recognize things need to change too. And I don't want to discount that has some immediate effect on youth in America and Canada.
So I want to get to Gil the Thrill, and others are asking, hey, what are the goals? We're going to get to the goals, at least stated by one NFL team in a little bit. Also, I know the NBA was talking about it tonight. There were mentions by media people that they might have a statement of their different goals. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But I want to go back to the NFL, because you can hear Adam all the time kind of throws in there the frustration of not having access, not being able to talk to guys. The NFL is closing down its access day by day. They're also threatening media members on, over what they can report, what they can say, what they can list in terms of what they witness at practice. And this one's interesting. Apparently there was a blow up with the Bills. I don't know if there's been an update in the last 10 hours, but story on Awful Announcing says Bills seemingly ban in-house reporter Chris Brown for violating team policy. Adam, what happened here?
So basically, nobody's made a statement that he's been banned. There's no official, hey, he's suspended, he's banned, anything like that. Chris Brown is a very, very prominent member of the media in Buffalo. He's the team reporter, but he also does a radio show. And everybody's kind of putting this together saying, okay, he hasn't been on his show for the last few days. He hasn't tweeted in a week. That's not very normal for training camp for a guy like Chris Brown who tweets all the time. And there is some speculation that some of the things that he said on the radio violated the Bills' policy of what you can and can't report. And the biggest evidence of that is that on the, basically the podcast that they put out, a couple of things were cut out. Like a couple of things that he said were cut out of the podcast. Yeah. Which were essentially not like earth-shattering things. Like he's not saying, oh man, this trick play that they have where they line up, both running backs on the right side of the field and then they throw back to Josh. Like it's nothing like that. He was allegedly saying things like, man, it was really cool that they were working Zach Moss a little bit into the first team offense. Like, okay, everybody kind of expects Zach Moss to run with the first team offense at times. That's weird that's a problem. And things like that. And just pointing out what he was noticing at practice. By the way, if you're doing a radio show about the team and you're on for 2 hours a day, you're going to say things that you saw at practice. You just are. How would you not? And what kind of why would anybody listen to a show that doesn't? Why would you listen to a show from a team insider who watches practice but they don't say anything that they saw at practice? It's just crazy.
Here's my question for you guys. From my perspective on the outside looking in the journalistic industry, are team employees, the team's quote unquote reporters or journalists actually seen as true journalists or reporters or members of the media? Because that distinction to me legally is hugely significant.
Sure. I think it really depends on the team and the person. A lot of them are just like team employees that, run videos and like, all right, write up an account of what you saw. Others are former journalists that, go into that. Like I'll say right now, Miles Simmons, who used to work at the RJ covering the Raiders, worked with me, left to take the job as the Carolina Panthers, basically team insider. So ironically enough, Raiders Panthers week 1, we'll get to see him again. But like a guy like that, he is a guy who was a journalist and now has gone into this world and he's trying to figure out kind of how to be a journalist and cover the team, but also be a part of the team and be an employee. I'll tell you this, he told me the other day he doesn't get access to the players, just like we don't get access to the players. So it's a frustration for him too. But I think to answer your question, I think it just depends on which market, which team, which person it is that works for them.
Yeah, because from a legal perspective, I say I wouldn't even classify him as a journalist. I classify him as an employee who had a policy, didn't follow the policy, and then they took whatever, assuming they took some sort of corrective action, whether it's suspension or a ban or whatever it is. I don't even see this even beginning to touch on any sort of media rights that may exist or, First Amendment rights. I mean, that's going to be somewhat limited anyway as a private entity and a private league. But once you're on the payroll, I just don't think legally you can classify yourself as a journalist seeking protections under the press.
It's also, so people know, and I know we mentioned this, but for this audience, very different this year. Like, you don't get to watch practice during the season at all because of this. Like, they don't want you to talk about anything that's going on, any kind of plays that they're running, who's running with what team. You're banned from practice completely. But you can attend training camp practice because that's different. But usually that's because there's fans there. And fans will get to see it anyway, and fans can talk about it, and fans can put whatever they want out there, so the media can put whatever they want out there. This year, no fans at training camp. We still get to have access to it and watch it, but we're just not supposed to report on it because technically if there's no fans there, it's a different type of a thing. It's a whole new world for the media that everybody's trying to figure out as well. It's been very weird. And you have things like in Green Bay, they told the reporters they can't even do like a projected depth chart. Can't do that. If you're watching practice, you probably have too much information, and we don't want you to reveal to our future opponents who might or might not be on the team, and you have too much information that we're using to do that. That's insane to me. But again, it's weird because I would think, Justin, you're agreeing to certain rules by attending the camp. And so if you didn't want to follow them, you could just have the option of not going.
Right. And I think the distinction is important here in this new little world you guys are trying to navigate, which is it's not accessible to the public. You are invited guests. And so they can restrict you on the agreement to allow you in. Whereas if it's something that's open to the public, let's say, the Raiders are having a game and then you go to report and they say, hey, you can't report on this. There, I would have a completely different opinion about First Amendment rights and freedom of the press and their rights to restrict you, and whether or not they could sue you or prevent a story from coming out or take any adverse action against you. But even that said, when it's open to the public, if you're on their payroll, like all bets are off.
Yeah, and to answer Brady's question, I mean, it's a fair question. I know some reporters have said there's no reason for me to be here. The ones that still cover the team that live in the Bay Area and have been traveling here to cover practices have stopped. Like they're like, we're just staying in the Bay Area.
Oh,
There's no
really?
reason to be there. Oh yeah.
Wow.
There's no like, why would you be here? He's right. I would say it's beneficial to us. Like we can see, it can inform our reporting. It can inform what I talk about on the radio, without actually saying what's going on. So, for example, I could say, "Hey, Justin Watkins is making a ton of plays at camp. Like he has looked really good." I can't say Justin Watkins has improved so much in camp that he is now the slot receiver with the first team offense. Like, I mean, that's where the distinction is. Like, I could say he's making a lot of great plays. Can't say like specifics in that regard. So there
This
is.
doesn't. By the way, this doesn't seem overboard to the fans, the viewers who are in our chat room. This is alarming to me.
It's weird.
Alarming how?
That
Why?
you can't say that you can't report that someone is doing well enough that they may be on the ones. Really? We're going to get that secretive? And by the way, to go back to Justin's point about the stadium, I would hope there's never restrictions at the stadium because you know what I'm going to jump on there because I say it all.
It's our stadium.
Yep. Fuck you. $750 million. No one's getting restricted.
I like it.
So along these lines, we had an argument today, and I'll let you guys weigh in on this because I have no idea. There was some conversation of how we're going to cover week one, especially with, we have a ton of people here that aren't traveling. So what can we do for week one? And one of the things was, hey, let's go get photo and video of all the people tailgating at the stadium. It's a road game, obviously, but they're saying there's obviously going to be people tailgating at the stadium. Hey, it's week one. We'll go to the stadium. We'll park in the parking lot. We'll watch the game on TV, and we'll tailgate. So my response to them was, I have to imagine the Raiders are going to lock the gates, even though they're not locked now. You can drive right up to the stadium if you want to. But I have to imagine they're going to lock the gates because can you imagine the outcry of no fans at the stadium, but we're going to have a road game where we're going to have a bunch of fans hanging out and spread COVID potentially. But, like, that's fine. You guys can go park and do whatever you want. You just can't come in the stadium when we have home games here. Like, that would be a tough one to kind of write off.
I think if they were into it, you could come up with a way to space out the parking and all of that to make it as safe as possible. But I think that the powers that be in the state of Nevada would have a vested interest in making sure that didn't happen. I mean, to some of the discussions we've had before, if you're not allowed to drive up to a church service, there certainly looks bad to allow you to drive up to watch a football game.
Yeah. Yes. That is correct. So I can't imagine people are going to be allowed to go out there week one, but you never know, I guess.
All right. That's all I got on that one.
Okay.
I get angry. Let's move on to the latest now in the Jacob Blake case. Adam, do we have confirmation about what his dad said about the conditions at the hospital?
I mean, we don't have a photo or anything, but his dad told the Chicago Sun-Times that his paralyzed son is in the hospital and handcuffed to the bed. And as I said, I believe that's a standard practice in terms of somebody that will be arrested when they're healthy enough to leave the hospital. But he's paralyzed. Like, what's the fear? I don't understand.
I don't even have anything on that other than they probably will charge him, right? Because I don't think that there is any dispute that he wasn't adhering to police commands prior to.
But can they have him cuffed without telling him and his family what the charges are? Like, how long can you? I mean, technically, that would be what, detaining someone. How long can you detain someone without telling them, like, at least the minimal charge?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, and it could vary based on the fact that he's in the hospital, right? And the the restraints that are allowed to be placed when somebody's not able to be physically put in custody, there's probably an out there. Okay. Maybe indefinitely for as long as he's in the hospital. In theory, maybe they can have him. I don't know I don't know the laws in Wisconsin specifically, but I'm sure there's an out for when you are unable to physically detain them and process them because they're in a hospital or some psychiatric ward or wherever they happen to be, that you can detain them until you have the opportunity to safely take them in for processing.
All right. Let's talk about what we found out the last day or so, because you didn't have a lot of answers yesterday, and I'm not like ripping you because we didn't have enough information. About 90 minutes after you were on Wednesday, the Wisconsin DOJ said he did have a knife in the car and that Jacob Blake admitted to having a knife in the car. So what does that do to the case? What does that do for the officers who shot him 7 times? Are they justified in shooting him? I've seen a lot of people say case closed. It's justified.
It's certainly not case closed to me, because if the police officer was unaware that there was a knife in the car, just because they happened to find a knife in the car, if that's true, which the family attorney disputes, says there was no knife in the car. So that's not even agreed upon. But let's assume there is a knife in the car. It depends to me on whether or not it was clear that he was reaching for it and the police officer could see that he was trying to access the knife by entering the car. Because if it's hidden, if it's under a seat and they have no idea what he's doing and they shoot him in the back, well, then no, they didn't know that. And we can't consider that when looking at whether or not this was a justified shooting. And I guess from whether or not it's legally justified, I think the conversation will go much broader there and say, the outcry is, let's say he was even grabbing a knife. Let's say he had a knife. I think there's a reasonable discussion that can be had about whether or not, if he was white, if they would be using de-escalation tactics rather than shooting him in the back. And that's what this is sort of about. I don't think anybody's saying that any of the victims here are, pristine and didn't do anything wrong. It's just that people do things wrong all the time and they don't get killed for it. I think that even extends broader to how the different protests were treated. When you look at the protesters in Michigan who stormed the Capitol and were trying to get at the governor, and they were all armed, and there was massive restraint showed by the police there. No tear gas, no flash bombs, no riot gear, no nothing. And then when there was a Black Lives Matter protest in the streets, then just when they felt like they had had enough, they just start chucking in tear gas, they start moving the lines. And so I think it's the difference in treatment that is problematic. And I also think the fact that they're not giving information, right? Like they've already talked to the police officer. Why'd you do this? Well, then say what his side of the story is. Even if you're not saying we have concluded our investigation, tell the people at least what the police officer is saying so that people can feel like there's an actual legitimate investigation going on. Because I think the fear is that when you hear the words investigation, it's all about getting your story straight and not about actually getting to the bottom of what happened.
Is there a responsibility for just the video we saw? Because there's obviously more to the story. There's obviously more that happened. In the video we saw, one of the things that I would say is, okay, whatever happened outside the car, if there was a struggle, if they tried to tase him and he got through it and he was going to the car, at what point do we say, you know what, he's getting away, just let him go? Like, let's just back up and let it go. Like, is there a danger to society threshold of we believe that if he leaves, something else can happen? Is there guidance in that regard? And as far as of, hey, like, there's no reason to chase him to the car, grab him, try to pull him back and shoot at him. If one of the options would be, you know what, get in your car and go away, and we'll take care of whatever we have to take care of later.
His kids were in the car though, right?
Right.
Well, I don't know then, right? If the call that's being placed to if the police are responding to a domestic violence call, and that's what they were responding to, right? And it's unclear. We don't even have this answer of whether or not Blake was the subject of the call, but that's why they were out there. Is there was domestic violence, a violation of a restraining order call. That's why they're there. And if they're just getting to the scene, this guy is loading up. He's got kids in the car and he's getting ready to take off. And they feel that the reason that they're there is that this person is not allowed to have the kids and take the kids from the mom, which is sort of the impetus of the call. You know, that's a tough call, man. I mean, who knows what kind of danger it poses to those kids?
No, Justin, I agree with you on that. And if that was the case or whatever, I'm saying more in general of like, we see what happens here and we see the little version of what happened in this case. Is there a time where you're like, okay, we are having this confrontation. It's probably better to de-escalate to say, okay, you know what, he's leaving, he's away, and just deal with it later, like arrest him later or find him later, depending on, again, it's not him. I think everybody's focusing on this. I'm seeing people say like, just let him drive. Like, depending on the charge, depending on the situation, that we just say, okay, he's leaving. The situation is de-escalated. We can figure out what we have to do later, but he's gone now.
Yeah, well, there is some precedent for that. I don't know about like somebody brandishing a weapon in public and around kids, but let's take it to the high-speed car chase. Right. In a lot of jurisdictions, they have said we're not going to engage in that because what we found is that by engaging in the high-speed car.
Justin, I'm sorry, because Ben Roy keeps talking about this. You don't let criminals go. Fuck you. What do they do to the kid that just shot people in the street? The same police officers the next night. He's white. He's got a gun on him. They just let him go. So they do let criminals go. You do make decisions on what's going on. They let him walk away, knowing that he shot people. Like, get out of here. We'll deal with this later. That happened. The same police officers. So don't say you don't just let criminals go. You do sometimes. You make those decisions. We just saw it happen. Sorry, you were going somewhere.
No, that's good. Yeah. So like, specifically, I think in LA County, they have made it part of their protocol that they will not engage in high-speed car chases, right? Unless they believe that there is some imminent danger within the car or somebody's life. But if it's some other offense and the person takes off, and they're not going to engage in that because their own investigation found that they do way more damage to everybody around them by the time they finally get these people caught. Property damage, physical damage, bodily injuries as a result of that. So there is some precedent to say, depending on the risk of harm to others and the severity of the crime, of whether or not to just sort of back down. That there is precedent, but this one's I frankly don't know enough on this one. The one that sort of made more, that was a little bit clearer to me, that I know still people are not happy about, but the Wendy's drive-through one, that one was different, man. I mean, he took the taser gun from the police, was firing it, and then about to run into a residential complex, and so like I get that, the police were sort of damned if they did, damned if they didn't in that situation. That who knows what that guy was going to do to anybody. So, I mean, I never like to see anybody get shot and killed, no doubt about it. But I also recognize that some of these choices, we get to spend weeks and months debating about what decision we would make, and they don't even have seconds to make that decision.
So, okay. You're muted.
Adam, go ahead.
No, I mean, I just wanted to talk about another aspect of this. We know that every time this happens, no matter who it is, from George Floyd to the Wendy's guy to this one, every single case, the smearing on social media begins, and all of a sudden, no matter what crime you've committed in the past, you deserve to be shot for some reason, I guess, is how we're dealing with it. In this case, the narrative, and if you look on social media, it is everywhere. And anytime anybody says, hey, the NBA players are protesting, over a guy who raped a 14-year-old girl, and it is this narrative that just will not die on social media. It is all over the place. And guess what? Not true. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this, and a lot of people have read this. on the internet that he was wanted and had been charged with raping a 14-year-old girl. It's not true. So all these people that are spreading this, and I'm assuming that it came from a Facebook post, and actually I read into a very, very long, detailed story about how this rumor started. People read the law wrong. Essentially, he had in his past a third-degree sexual assault charge, which in the state of Rhode Island automatically means it was a sex charge against a minor. It's not the case in the state of Illinois or Wisconsin where he was. So people just started saying this. Hey, he raped a 14-year-old girl, and now we're saying you're defending, or you're getting mad because the police killed a child rapist. But it's not true. Is there any repercussions that come to people that are just outright lying and then just continuing to spread this lie all over the place on social media?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, libel and defamation claims can persist. The problem with the internet and the problem with social media and the ability to post things anonymously and to actually not be able to get to the bottom of where it even originated to start is that any like online assholes is not going to have any money that's worth going after. And so there's really you're not going to come out on top by even pursuing that from a legal standpoint. Now, if the state, parrots those posts, or somebody that's of means, say like, I don't know, Brian Urlacher, then, maybe it becomes worthy of a claim. But yeah.
Would those people, because I saw some pretty prominent media people doing it too, but say it's Brian Urlacher who goes on Facebook, reads somebody say, hey, he raped a 14-year-old girl, and now he comes out and says, oh, the NBA players are protesting somebody who raped a 14-year-old girl. Could his defense be, hey, I read it on Facebook? Or is that not a good enough defense for just spreading lies about somebody?
No, it actually is somewhat of a decent defense, only because in order for defamation in order for a defamation claim to have standing and to move forward, you must show that the person knew what they were saying was false or had reason to believe that it was false. So here, you would obviously it's almost impossible to prove that Brian Urlacher knew that it was false, absent some sort of smoking gun. So you'd have to say, that what I would do if I was a lawyer is say, hey, man, there was 50 stories out there already published that this was a lie. So he should have known that it was false, and that by weighing in on this topic, he was exposing himself to potential claims by not doing adequate background research. But the media is a whole different question, right?
Yeah.
Media's protection is so much higher. The media, you have to prove that not only did they know it was false, that's not enough, that it was false and they acted with actual malice with the intent to harm that person. So somebody threw up in the comments, Tucker Carlson. Geez, I'm having a hard time today. Well, he could very easily say, yeah, I knew it was false, but I didn't do it with a malice thought. I wasn't trying to harm him. I was trying to promote me with the right-wing audience. That I don't even care what happens to him. I don't care if it hurts him, helps him. That's irrelevant. That's not part of my analysis. My analysis is to benefit me and my media credibility with the right wing. And they're generally going to be a little bit more clever about it and say, it's been reported, or you see out there that he has this charge against them. They're going to be a little bit smarter about their wording.
Brady with a question: is Facebook getting closer to being a publisher with their censorship and being liable for claims?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, once you get into the censorship world, we talked about this, Adam, like, hey, I'm just a platform. I don't have any obligation to anything, any more than if a group of people get together at the park and start talking a bunch of nonsense. That's a bunch of lies. The park doesn't have any liability for that. I'm just a platform. When you go across the street from the White House to the square there's a park, and there's people with megaphones all the time, every day, all day, spouting off all kinds of crazy shit. right? Is the government liable for what happens as a result of that? No, we're America, freedom of speech, right? And so I think that, and I think it's very much so why Facebook and Twitter have been so resistant to being the arbiters of truth. You hear them all the time when they keep getting called in front of Congress, like, hey, that's not what we do. It's unrealistic, number one, with the amount of volume of posts that goes out there, that we could even get to all these and run them through a credibility check. But number two, it's not what we do. We're simply a platform. The problem is that people in people in Congress want them to be the arbiters a little bit. They want them to be more careful about this so they can make the law whatever they want to make the law, right? They can say, no, if you're going to be a platform for social media, you need checks on whether or not there is false and misleading information posted on your platform. That's the law. And so in order to prevent that law from being created, they have given a little each time. Now they do the little disclaimer. Now they do you have to show it to me because it may be offensive, right? They keep doing these little things to appease Congress because they don't want a law that demands that it creates a duty of them to be the arbiters of truth.
Let's look at what we found out about the Rittenhouse kid, the 17-year-old who has been charged with at least one murder. I don't know if he's been charged with the second one yet, but now that we have a little bit more clarity, Adam, to the point where we can give a better opinion on what happened a couple of nights ago. Is it simply self-defense? We talked about this yesterday on the air. Is it self-defense? Guy hits him in the face with a skateboard. He goes down. He's on his back. The guy's trying to disarm him. He shoots him in the chest, and kills this dude.
Well, I need to read more. I'm definitely behind on this, but I'll say a hypothetical in this scenario, because one of the things I heard, because I don't know if this is true, but I was very interested in how this would play. That he shot somebody, everybody decided, okay, it's time to take his gun away, so they started attacking him to get the gun. Now, is it self-defense to shoot people at that point?
If he so
he shoots somebody.
Right. Here's what I'm hearing is that there's this video out there of him before any of the incidents. He was interviewed by the Daily Caller on site, right? He's all armed up, and they're like, "Why are you down here?" And he's like, "I'm down here to protect people's property."
Yeah.
Okay. And that he set up camp at this auto dealership. Is this what you've heard? This is a story I've heard.
Saw that.
Okay. And that they start vandalizing the dealership, and that he shoots somebody there, and that they chase him. And the video we pick up of the chase is from that scene.
Right.
They're chasing him down. And so they chase him down, they attack him, he falls, he turns, he fires on the people attacking him. So number one, here's the critical question, because it determines whether or not he has the right to self-defense. Let's assume Wisconsin's a stand your ground state. It probably is. Okay, it's a stand your ground state. And a stand your ground state means you can defend property with lethal force. But here's the point.
Your property
with lethal force, right? You don't get to protect other people's property with lethal force unless they have authorized you to do so, unless you've been given that task, like a security officer or what have you, right? Deputized, right? That's a whole nother leg of this story. So let's assume he's just a 17-year-old kid goes down there and says, yep, this property looks good. I don't like how these protesters are looking at this place. I'm going to protect that property. So he stands over there, decides to protect it. And no, it's not a stand your ground. A castle doctrine. Okay. So we've talked about this a number of different times. So difference between stand your ground and castle doctrine, right? Castle doctrine is you do get to protect your property with lethal force, but if the person leaves your property, that ends your right to use lethal force. It's over. So they've left. Stand your ground means you can still pursue. By and large, stand your ground is not universal, but okay. So he does not have the right. Let's assume he has not called the auto dealership, and said, "Hey, man, I'm out here with an assault rifle, AR-15. I'd like to defend your property." And the dude goes, "Cool. Let's assume that doesn't happen. You don't get to just defend somebody else's property with lethal force. So his shooting of somebody who's vandalizing that property without authorization, he has committed the crime. And when the protesters chase him in response to what he's done, he then does not get the right to defend himself with lethal force because he was the original aggressor.
He wasn't allowed to have the gun. He's 17, and he transported
Yep.
across state lines, so he
Yep.
wasn't allowed to have it in the first place.
Yep.
Does illegally possessing it wipe away all those defenses anyway?
I don't know how a court would treat that, because who knows what kind of laws are on their books in that regard. Because let's say this, right? Let's say somebody breaks into your home, and you've got a younger brother who's 16, and they're going after your mom, and your 16-year-old younger brother grabs a gun, shoots them. Everybody would say that that's okay, right? Right. So now this is different because, again, it's not his property, and he's out in the public and engaging with the public versus private property, somebody wrongfully entering. So I'm going to say it doesn't necessarily negate those defenses. It would depend on the facts and what the law specifically says on the books. But from what I have read so far, he's got a problem.
Pickle Gamer saying right for self-defense gone, illegally having a gun, carrying an illegal weapon across state lines.
No, well, that's basically what Adam was just asking, and I can't say that definitively. I don't know. I'd have to look at Wisconsin laws, but the answer is probably. Okay. He probably loses those rights to self-defense, but not. I don't think it's necessarily.
Here's some video on the Washington Post. Let's see if I can get these to play. One is a video of, it says law enforcement thank and offer water to Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't know what kind of audio we're going to get out of this or if we get a commercial, but.
Kristan T here is here at the Rundown Live, and I'm here with a bunch of militia. Do you have a good angle? Yeah, very cool. And you guys local or no? Yeah, okay, cool.
I'm Kyle, by the way. That's theirs! Hey, we're guarding it! It's ours! We got it!
Copy. Thank you.
Absolutely!
I had a single code for
Well, they probably wanted to verify.
Thank you for your cooperation. We understand what you're doing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, you're welcome. You guys protecting that building?
Yes! Yes! This is our business!
Thank you.
Back by the gas station again.
Hey, thank you guys. Need water? Seriously. Guys, far right. You need water.
We need water!
We'll throw you one.
Thank you! All right, come on, guys. Let's get out of here. Which way should we go?
All right, let's go get a couple. Thank you. Yes, you. You are a civilian. This area is closed to them. You're trespassing. Leave. Leave now.
Can you throw one up here? Officer, can you throw one?
We got a couple. We got to save a couple, but we'll give you a couple. We appreciate you guys. We really do.
Hey, can we go this way? Can we walk this way? Hold on. I need a step.
I'm sure.
Reaction?
I mean, the one thing that stood out for me from a legal perspective is they're saying that this is their business. That's important if that's true. The cop asking, are you guys protecting these properties? If they said something, oh, go ahead.
No, keep going.
If they had said something different, like, yeah, we're going to protect all these properties up and down the street, and didn't say anything about it being their business, I don't even know if they're telling the truth, but it has legal significance to me. And if we're just protecting all these businesses, and the cops were like, "Cool, man, thank you," then that's bullshit. Like you are creating an environment by which violence is probably going to result. You got improper use of, or the potential for improper use of physical force. And I think it would be incumbent upon them to explain, hey, you don't have the right to defend businesses with deadly force. That's not yours. You can't do that. You're allowed to possess guns. You're open carrying. I can't stop that. But if you think you have the right to come in here, if somebody comes near these businesses and shoot up the place, you don't. I kind of feel like, proper police protocol would have done that. But it looks like the police are picking a side on this. To me, I mean, that's just what it looks like.
Is it legitimate for me to suggest that as they scan the guys with guns, that maybe they could look at this kid and go, doesn't look old enough? I mean, we see him close up here. Now we know how old he is, so it makes it easy for us. But I don't know, man.
He looks like he could be 18 to me. I mean, he doesn't look super young to me.
Let's play a quick 20-second clip with him being interviewed by
it's just
the local paper.
It's a good thing he was, he had a gun and didn't maybe have a knife somewhere.
What are you doing out here? Obviously, you're armed and you're in front of this business we saw burning last night. So what's up?
So people are getting injured, and our job is to protect this business. And part of my job is to also help people. If there's somebody hurt, I'm running into harm's way. That's why I have my rifle, because I need to protect myself, obviously. But I also have my med kit.
All right. Serving the public.
And they also lied, or he lied and said he was local when they asked, "Are you local?" No, not from another state. It's, I don't know. I'm pretty emotional about this, but you were pointing out just like the part of it of he's coming in, they're choosing sides. Like that's clearly what's going on. Hey, thank you guys for being out here with your gun slung over your shoulder. Like we support you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that and treating him very, very differently than you've treated other people. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I think videos like that are gonna deepen the divide on this issue. And I think if I was a person of color and I was watching this video and then I hear like, no, we are here for everybody, I'd be like, bullshit, like not after that video. I don't believe you.
Here's some water, bro.
Yep.
Does the video open the city up for being sued by the families for contributing to a wrongful death?
Potentially, yeah. I think so. Like I said, I don't know what their written protocol is, but what would I expect of police officers when you see a whole bunch of people out there with guns who are looking to engage with protesters? Like, what's your purpose out here? What are you doing? And to inform them that they don't have the right to just start shooting people up. I mean, otherwise you'd have a bunch of crazies waiting around to catch graffitiers, and then that's a death sentence. You just start shooting people who graffiti. Like
Everybody
that's not the law.
Was out after the curse of fire.
Sorry, I was just going to get you a clip of Kenosha PD in the aftermath. Adam, what else?
There was the question that I wanted to get to because he asked it like 3 times, but the mother drove him.
Yeah.
She also was all geared up, by the way. She looked like a real winner. Can she be charged with transporting him, knowing he's possessing a gun illegally because he's underage, and bringing him into this situation? Could she be charged because now her bringing him there results now in 2 people being dead?
Well, she could be charged anyway for aiding, abetting, and breaking the law and bringing the guns over state lines. From a civil standpoint, from like the family's retribution, she is already liable. Parents have strict liability for the acts of their children, which most parents don't know, but that sucks. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if she, tried to stop them.
Is that only until they're 18?
Correct.
Does it? Now this is going to be a real weird legal argument.
Unless there's emancipation. If they've emancipated, then it's different.
My question
is, or if they don't live in the house anymore. Sorry.
My question is going to be, in the state of Wisconsin, as I was reading earlier, 17 is treated as an adult. I guess it said no matter the crime that 17 is treated as an adult. Would she then be able to claim, hey, he's an adult under the law of the state of Wisconsin?
That goes to they're tried as an adult in criminal proceedings. That means you're looking at adult penalties, adult prison. That does not speak to the age of majority. He's 17, not allowed to vote, right? Like assuming I am making the assumption that Wisconsin has the strict parental liability laws that every state I've ever seen has. That is, parents are responsible for the acts of their kids.
Some of the comments from the chief in Kenosha annoyed people, especially at the beginning of this. Let me punch it up, and then I'll punch up a 2018 video of maybe a previous chief of police or someone on the Kenosha force. That one was real interesting too.
Everybody involved was out after the curfew. I'm not going to make a great deal of that, but the point is the curfew's in place to protect. Had persons not been out involved in violation of that, perhaps the situation that unfolded would not have happened.
We all comfortable with that? Let me play it again.
No.
One more time.
Everybody involved was out after the curfew. I'm not going to make a great deal of that, but the point is the curfew's in place to protect. Had persons not been out involved in violation of that, perhaps the situation that unfolded would not have happened.
Let's go back. Your officer doesn't shoot a guy in the back 7 times. It doesn't happen either. So let's just cycle it all the way back to the beginning of things.
Well, and I think if his point is to try to get people to honor the curfew, I think it could have been stated a little bit more artfully to say something like, we put a curfew on there because we believe in these late night hours, it's more likely that these kinds of things are going to happen. So please, if you want to be safe, like abide by the curfew. That's why we put it there, is because the people who are looking to cause trouble are going to do it in these hours, right? Like that, then you're not you're not victim blaming at that point.
Here's the rest of this brief statement here, or at least the brief clip of the statement.
So the last night, a 17-year-old individual from Antioch, Illinois, was involved in the use of firearms to resolve whatever conflict was in place. The result of it was 2 people are dead.
I'm going to give him a pass on that because this is the same night, right? I'm going to there's a whole hell of a lot of people to talk to. There's probably 30 different people that encountered that dude and 100 different people who saw different aspects of it. And so if I were the chief of police, the last thing I'd want to do is make affirmative statements of what exactly happened. There's no way they've been able to talk to everybody. So I'm going to give them a pass on that.
And don't think this is not a discussion to be had. And I actually, it's funny. I actually had a quick business call today with a couple of fellows from Wisconsin. And I was like, man, your state, Manitowoc, the Steve Avery case, and they got all bristled because this is fucking embarrassing. Because my question is like, listen, it doesn't mean the whole state is crooked, but in the Avery case, that was crazy. But yeah, I mean, if you're outside of Wisconsin, you're like, man, small town justice in Wisconsin, woo, watch yourself.
And Texas.
We stick to these examples. I mean, it doesn't break the state.
Small town justice, I think everywhere should be looked at with a critical eye.
Yeah. The guy who was standing behind him is actually the sheriff. This is clipped up, but this is actually him from 2018. It's very clipped up, but I don't know what he's trying to say here, but this is Bizarro World as well. I have no idea if this gives us, more of an idea of the setting, but this is the guy, Sheriff Beth, I guess, behind him.
I think society has to come to a threshold where there's some people that aren't worth saving. We need to build warehouses to put these people into it and lock them away for the rest of their lives.
Not exactly the most eloquent folks, by the way.
Well, I think that's why they're having the other guy speak now.
let me let it go because he says it about 3 times. And it's like, wait, what are you trying to say?
Let's put them in jail. Let's stop them from truly, at least some of these males going out and getting 10 other women pregnant and having small children.
What the fuck?
What?
By the way, this is not Manitowoc, because that's the way a lot of the people speak in Manitowoc. You're like, is there anyone above 100 IQ in the city of Manitowoc? Or if they are above, are they crooked like that? What was the scumbag's name? The fat ass Attorney General Ken Cross or something? Is that what it was? Ken Crass? Ken Clack?
Yeah, Crack.
Who like then he got caught like banging a juror or something, like completely out of his gourd.
I did not see that coming on this video.
No. I'm just going to play it through. Listen to because it is clipped up, but these are all statements he made clipped up.
Society has to come to a threshold where there's some people that aren't worth saving. We need to build warehouses to put these people into it and lock them away for the rest of their lives. Let's put them in jail. Let's stop them from truly, at least some of these males going out and getting 10 other women pregnant and having small children. Let's put them away. At some point, we have to stop being politically correct. And I don't care what race, I don't care how old they are. If there's a threshold that they cross, these people have to be warehoused. No recreational time in the jails. We put them away. We put them away for the rest of their lives so that the rest of us can be better.
All right.
Jesus.
2018, that was the fella who was sitting behind or standing behind the chief that spoke on the night of the incident with Rittenhouse.
He has a hard time. I've been fumbling over my words tonight, so I'm not one to criticize, but Lex instead of let's. I love it. Lex do
this. Lex do that.
He also invented the word warehoused.
Yeah.
They need to be warehoused.
I have obviously so many different issues with everything that he said, but I guess the point that I would like to make is that we now have ample evidence, empirical data to say that simply putting people in jail does not make us safer. And putting people in jail so they don't have more kids is just, okay, that's like fucking atrocious, but whatever. But if he's saying some people aren't worth saving, number one, that's not who I want on my police force. That's not your call, right? Whether or not somebody is worthy or not of your efforts to save them is not your call, man. Like, you're supposed to try to save everybody. That's your job. What prison life should look like, he's not qualified to talk about that. Like, we know that the harsher the prison is, the more damage we end up doing to our society, because there's not in any condition when they finally are released, and most perpetrators are released, absent like murders, then they are not ready to reintegrate into society because they've been closed off for so long and treated so badly for so long that the only thing they do is go right back to crime, and we are in more danger than we were before. There's nothing right that he said there the whole time. I don't know how else to say it.
I think Justin still hasn't watched our documentary on Showtime that we're obsessed with. But one of the things that came out of that, which was just infuriating, was one of the police officers on the case was asked, what is the main job of a police officer? And he said, to get convictions. Like, wow.
Like, that was a police officer himself?
Yes.
Like, you take an oath that specifically says that's not it, right? Your job is to uphold the rights of the Constitution and the state and the laws of the state that you are in, and county and so forth. So that's your job, which means that in theory, what that means is, even if you really know that somebody did something, but you don't have the legal proof to do it, that you're not supposed to do anything about it.
And that was essentially the crux of the case. Was they completely, centered an investigation on someone and made everything fit the narrative so that they can get a conviction. And then he literally said during the appeal, his main job as a police officer to get a conviction. Like, and by the way, he was still working. Like, that wasn't disqualified.
No. He got boosted. The
right
police got to retire. None of his pension, nothing happened to him. the officer who said that is actually a sergeant overseeing 10 officers now.
Right.
So
he got promoted. Right. Like, and that is the crux of when, like, a lot of these things, like, obviously there's these incidents and we all get outraged about the incidents that we see and the videos and everything else. But that is the crux of the problem that a lot of people, when they complain about systemic problems and issues that come up and, good cops not doing the right thing in terms of the ones that are obviously bad. Like, that case, they put an innocent dude in jail because they so badly wanted to get a conviction in this case. And he outright said his main job is to get a conviction. And the result is he's promoted. And that's why people are so fucking mad and should be so mad. Like, and we wouldn't have known about that if there wasn't a documentary about it and saw it. But, like, those are the things that people are talking about. And that's
dude,
outrage.
We wouldn't know about half the shit that we know about today. Even 5 years ago, before everybody had the ability to record everything and now becomes aware. Oh, hey man, as soon as I start seeing some police coming down my road, boom, phone. Let's see what happens here. Maybe I kept, everybody's just more hyper aware. But to think that this stuff is happening at a more frequent rate than it was before, it's happening way less. But we see it way more because it's just being captured. So I really felt what Doc Rivers was talking about in his speech. He's comes from a family of law enforcement, and part of his solution is we have to disband the unions, right, of law enforcement, because that is creating the culture that you're talking about, Adam, which is we got a bunch of good cops who end up standing behind the bad cops just because it's the union thing to do.
Hey, Justin, for the audience that didn't hear Doc Rivers, let me play it for him. It's just the audio, though.
Super good.
Yeah, I mean, it's emotional stuff. He's breaking up as it's happening. It's coming up. Let's go, Commodore 64. Pick it up. Well, keep going while it loads. Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, while we're here, everybody's talking about it on the chat. So Rand Paul said as he was leaving, I guess, the White House tonight, he was attacked by 100 people in a mob. And he tweeted that out. And apparently there's video somewhere too. So just wanted to say what people are talking about in the chat right now.
All right. We'll look into it.
Yeah. He sent the tweet.
Maybe my audio is working. No audio. No audio.
Sorry, and as Gil pointed out in the chat too, Justin, in that case where they wrongly convicted the guy, the actual perpetrator who was allowed to skate, then went on to commit multiple rapes after that.
That's from Outcry.
Yeah.
Told you got to watch that documentary. It's craziness, and the attorney part of it is insanity. Like so many people should be disbarred, and yet they've actually moved on and they're considered experts. It's pretty freaking embarrassing.
Oh, dude, we got some of that here. We got, like I was telling you guys, I think I said it off air, but there's some people running to be elevated to the highest court in the state of Nevada who have articles and exposés written about them and about their time as prosecutors hiding evidence and not giving it to the other side and wrongfully convicting people and sending them to jail for decades. That's not just a Wisconsin thing or Midwest thing or a South thing. It happened here.
I got to break in with the hard work of both Brady and Sean, because I was asking for a Karen of the week. I didn't get to watch this, so we'll see if it's good. But apparently it's another open mic situation, city council, whatever, county meeting. I'm thinking, if anyone's a wrestling fan, I'm thinking Playboy Buddy Rich from the AWA around 1983. That's him. Let's see what Karen has to say.
Hey, now my brother.
Oh shit! Wait a second. This is a strong start. This is a real strong start.
Here, checking you guys out. So was my uncle's. Do you know you have scratchy toilet paper? And he really got treated bad. So you know what he said? You go buy them some toilet paper. Get everybody to start bringing toilet paper in. Because guess what? I guess that's why everybody's so damn, I can't say damn, right? Because you know what? Here, let's clear up some things. I have 2 boobs, not 6. I have 6 butts. Because when you guys are talking about me, you have no idea who knows me. Now see that young man back there? That is Investigator Schaefer, badge number 1193. Clap for him because he protects you guys from people like me. You know the people you screw over? Yeah, because guess what? You guys, wait a minute. I got to put a filter. You sent an officer over to me to make sure I put a filter in. This is the best I could do, Camels, okay? Here, we'll leave it here too. I don't think there's any cigarettes in it. One of my brothers brought that to me. And here is a monkey. And no, you don't get it, okay? Because the little kids you screwed over in my neighborhood, they're going to get it. But hey, it's no big deal. I'm so glad Mr. Whitman was here because guess what? His wife in New York knows my family. Wow, that's another name. You ever have those names that you don't say in open court? And you know what's a kicker here? Jeff Kirkpatrick was my attorney, and I don't mean a public pretender. He was my bought and paid for attorney. We have an anniversary coming, don't we? You ought to know what it is. It's December 17th when everything happened to my father-in-law. And we're not going to talk about that because that bothers me. But you guys caused the death of somebody you should have never. Oh, hey, wait a minute. I got marbles here because who in their right mind ever thought it was okay to put a concrete company 50 feet from a family home, a residential home? How many meetings did you have with that family? Not a damn one. And I'm standing here to tell you I don't appreciate it. And you know what? I'm coming. And what you guys forgot? Do you even know who I am? I called your office. Did you know I'm going to buy a whole bunch of hearing aids? Because guess what? Those people over there, they can't hear now. And they should be able to hear. They're not half as old as I am.
Okay.
I don't think she's a Karen, but it just brings me back to my legislative days, man. There was always one of these, and and they're fucking popping off. And to bring you behind the scenes, I don't know if I ever told you this, but like when hearings are going on, all the legislators, and that looks like a county commission or a city meeting, they all have computers and they're all connected in a chat, right? they're all in a chat together. So you know this is the bullshit that they'll tell you. Breaking news. Legislators will tell you, oh, don't mind me if I'm taking notes on what you're saying. No, they're not. They're chatting with all the other legislators about how stupid you are or how crazy you are or how this hearing's gone off the rails or maybe about something completely different. But I guarantee you, they think, good call.
By the way, not enough wrestling fans in here. It was Playboy Buddy Rose. My bad.
So she thinks that she's getting to these elected officials and it doesn't. It's just a waste of time. So I don't know. I don't think she's a Karen. I think she's literally insane. You're on mute, Adam.
Amazing question. Are those chats subject to public information requests?
Nope. They don't stay.
Fuck. Oh, damn it. That sucks. Well, along those lines, there was the case, and I don't even remember what it was about. I think it was about somebody had been killed, maybe by the cops in a town. I'm not exactly sure about that, but the point is, somebody's giving a very impassioned speech about somebody that had died, and they looked over, and one of the legislators, whatever it was online shopping. They were like, "What are you doing? This is I'm pouring out my heart and soul about this, and you're online shopping right now." So, we have seen these things happen before. But I wish that we could get those. We could subject those chats to FOIAs, which would be great.
No,
that's disappointing.
And forget I ever told you that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't want to break in there because you're really having a good time talking about the story. I'm like, there's at least one story was kind of sick. Here's one video of post President Trump speech tonight. RNC. Let's see. I didn't get to watch this. This is Brady sending it over. Could be porn for all we know. I don't know. I don't think it is, but I hope not.
Let that be
So do we think that's Rand Paul? You guys can't see it yet.
Yeah, he's leaving the White House tonight. I just watched the video.
So is that him behind kind of the blonde in the lower corner?
Yeah.
With the mask on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say there are a lot of politicians who are awful brave walking amongst a crowd like this. Again, I'm not going to go Tucker Carlson here and justify anything that happened, but I am surprised that there haven't been more politicians belted. With things so divided, and we've got people saying, "Hey, you know what? Solve everything by just going up to someone and I'll punch them right in the face." I have no idea.
Did he hit him?
Let's see.
No, nope, nobody gets
and Froggy because there's a police officer getting pushed down. And then Rand Paul's kind of just sitting there. There's a bike cop. All right. There's no aftermath.
That's all that happened?
Yeah.
Wow. That's it?
And then,
There's gotta be more.
No. And Rand Paul said, just got attacked by an angry mob of over 100, 1 block from the White House. Thanks to the police for literally saving our lives from a crazed mob. Like, okay, that sucked, but relax. It's clearly not over 100 people.
Yeah, and
the description on here is as Brady sent over, Senator Rand Paul assaulted by protesters.
I had a hard time seeing it.
The officer in the bike got pushed into him. So
yeah, literally attacked by an army of thousands. Literally, that's good. Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure there's going to be a huge field day on social media. I will guarantee, Dry Ben Shapiro has already tweeted about this.
Let's hit a couple of local stories and then we'll wrap it up because it's late for everybody. We appreciate you guys being with us. Let's see. Locally. Ari had the story yesterday. I guess some kids were doing the at-home learning thing online. The headline here is concerns raised after virtual PE class in Clark County exposed to porn. Sunrise Mountain High School class involved. I mean, how do we control something like this?
Well, I mean, CCSD didn't have the greatest response to it, which was parents, you really need to be monitoring your kids to make sure that, if this happens, you're there to stop it, stop your kid from seeing it. But, and then the instructors will, be more cognizant of it. But bottom line is like what's happening is some of the students are giving out the meeting codes to other people. So they're hopping into the classrooms. They got porn playing on the background. They're smoking joints on the camera. They're doing whatever they're doing. Or there's situations in which the instructor creates little breakout rooms. And so the instructor is not in your room all the time. And then they're all just goofing off and doing all this crazy shit all the time.
I was reading today, Justin, I wanted to get your take on this. Nothing is ideal, obviously. But I was reading that in Mexico, because there's so like little access, there's so many places with no access to the internet and no computers, that they are showing every grade level has a channel on TV, and you can either watch it live or tape it and go through it that way. For those that don't have the access, obviously they're still doing online courses as well. But like, why can they figure stuff like that out and we really can't?
Yeah, is that channel? Does it just show the instructor?
Supposedly, yeah. It's catered for every different age grade for every different grade, and there's a different course that you'd go through and you'd watch it every day and get through it. Now, obviously, you can't monitor who's watching what and check. Like, it's not ideal, of course, but for areas that are don't have access to the internet, don't have access to computers and that sort of thing, it obviously is a pretty good solution. Because I know in our town we've already talked about the fact that there's a lot of kids that can't get computers, that don't have access, don't have internet. And by the way, they told kids to get Chromebooks and they're sold out everywhere. So they can't even get those. Like, this is not a great solution, but it's something. Like, it's another step that people can have.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the district had sufficient Chromebooks to provide to students who were on free or reduced lunch. Maybe I was wrong about that. I don't understand that there is this mass shortage, but maybe I'm wrong. My kids' school had them for lease for every kid, and it's a public school. And I guess from the channel perspective, like if you're just gonna put your kids in front of a TV when there's no interaction, I don't know how much they're actually learning or retaining, right? Might as well put on Dora Explorer. I don't know, like. So I don't know. There's no easy solutions, dude. It's terrible, and it's part of one of the main reasons why. Right behind his bar. That's awesome.
The setup looks pretty good. This is from Mark. Apparently, this is Golden Pipes, the singer who works with the Golden Knights. So I guess he didn't, when he sent this out, he didn't consider the bar setup right behind his little girl. So people are always, you know what? People are always going to, well, you don't even have to zoom in. Every picture you send out inside your home, you better make sure it's sanitized because they'll pick out every freaking thing.
That's just the first thing I saw. I'm not criticizing. Hey, man, do you? But
you got. Yeah, where you got room, you got room. Not everyone's in some palatial estate. So put away the liquor.
We've got our kids on our dining room table. So the dining room table is not in use for regular use anymore. With like dividers that go around them with the computer in front of them, and then we have 2 extras so that like we can invite each of their friends over to do school with us so that they get some real social interaction. We're just trying, man. I think the lack of social interaction for these young kids, man, is just brutal.
Can you make a joke if you're Golden Pipes, or will the Golden Knights now go after him? Will there be people outraged? Because he actually, as someone's pointing out, David Clary saying, and I'm punching it up here, my daughter has angled her virtual classroom to include the bar in the back. I couldn't be more proud. Good for him.
I think he's fine.
Yeah.
I believe he's a high school classmate of mine, by the way.
Really?
I think so.
He didn't seem to know who the hell you were when he sat down with him. About 3 minutes.
I don't think we sat down with him.
Maybe you weren't there that day. That could have been a McKinnell day.
How about today? We have a new coworker at the RJ. I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you. We were doing a rehearsal thing for our TV show," and she was like, "Meet me. You introduced me to my husband." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, like 10 years ago." I was like, "Nah, I have no idea what you're talking about."
Oh boy.
That's good,
dude. What's wrong with you?
I blamed it on the mask. She was wearing a mask. I was like, I couldn't recognize her.
Oh boy. I'm going to close on this. Brady, we'll try to get that story next week. Let me punch up this one because I think it's a good discussion to close on, and I would really like to see this happen. But, maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture, and we shouldn't do it. So I want to get as much use out of Allegiant Stadium as possible. Again, can't mention enough. We're going to be on the hook for, $1.25 billion. At least the roads will be better, right? Might take a while, but the interchange – or the interchanges at Russell and 15 and Trop and 15 will be freaking awesome now. And they'll change that hellish entrance onto the 15 from the 215. Use Allegiant Stadium as a massive polling place. Justin, can we do this? Who would be against it? What are the negatives?
Well, I think we could do it. I mean, the negatives would be potential, I guess, crowding and social distancing, because everybody would pick that polling place that wants to see the stadium. But absolutely, they could do it. I mean, it's a public stadium, right? It's ours. We paid for it. And all polling places end up being that way. Libraries, schools. It's always a public building it's used. So yeah, I think it could be done. And I think if the Raiders were forward thinking about it, they would reach out and offer to do it. Not that we would necessarily need their permission. We have the right to do it, but I don't think that they will, only because this next election is going to be all mail-in. Yes, there still will be polling places that you can take your ballot to in person, or if you've lost your ballot, say that you've lost it and get one there, and drop it in a box there. But it's not the same voting system that we had before. You don't have the screen. You're not making the selections. It's not like that. It's literally a mail-in piece of paper. The only difference is if you go to live voting, you'll be mailing it in there, filling it out and mailing it. Yeah, there's not enough parking spots. That's the problem.
It's true. I'm worried tomorrow they're letting friends and family in for the Raiders. I'm like, I'm counting in my mind, like, how many people is that? I'm not going to have my parking spot. So you have to Uber over to the 1.5 miles away.
0.9 miles.
Yeah. It's going to be hot, too. 1 o'clock practice? Oh.
Dude, I got to figure out what that route is. Figure out my spot to set up my little recovery zone, my little rest stop. Get a little awning, get some air conditioning blowing in there, get some monitors so they can watch the game if they haven't made it in there yet. Some super expensive water and refreshments. Hot dogs are $8. I just kind of going the whole time.
Can you get a
Mark
beer
wants? Mark's he thinks you'd be
IV bags. Yeah,
IV bags, if I could say it.
Yeah, I'm there. Where we say the Uber drop off is? Trop and Valley View, right?
Yeah,
Trop and Valley View. Yeah, they bought the old Freest Transportation Center.
Oh yeah, and there could be some, take a walk half a block back the way you came, and you can get all kinds of services.
Seren Petro was on with us last night, so one of his buddies is in here, and this is another a fan. I'm assuming of Petro, or at least has Kansas City knowledge. Yeah, he was saying in that area of Arrowhead, the wait at a lot of the polling places is hours to vote. Mm-hmm. So they're getting cooperation from the Chiefs, and they're going to use Arrowhead as a polling place. So, yeah, by the way, is every place in the city of Las Vegas rapid on election day, and does every area have good access to the early polling? Obviously, I've lived in different areas. I only live in one area right now in this year, so I don't know if there are. I think there are delays around town in different spots.
I'd actually say if I had to pick an area that has the least amount of polling places, it's me and Adam's area, and I think we have two usually good ones.
But
and Desert
Oasis is a breeze.
No. I'm talking about early voting spot. He's talking about early voting sites. We have the two. We have the Smith, and then they do the Target.
Right.
I'm actually talking both day of and the early voting.
Well, day of, I think we are underserved countywide. Cities, definitely citywide. I don't think any one area is doing great in that regard. And especially this year with the mail-in vote and all the bullshit that's going on with the post office, get your ballot, fill it out, go put it in a Dropbox or mail it right away. And like I said, you can check to see if they've received your ballot because your name will pop up on the voted roll. So as we get closer to that, we can send out links and stuff of where to check to see if your name appears so that they've received it. And I wouldn't mess with it this year. I'm not going day of, man. Forget that.
By the way, Sean, anytime I start bidding and it gets to a certain point, Sean's in our fantasy league. All three of us are in a fantasy league with a bunch of dudes from Kansas City. Sean, back out. Back out, okay? This year, back out. Let me get my players, please. Not going to be prepared as always. Let me get my players. And Justin, you can guarantee that I will bid you up on everyone and get stuck with many of your targets.
Oh,
and
dude,
be dollar a holler really early, just trying to stick it to you.
That's all right. Everybody's realized my tactics in that league now. I can't steal the receivers anymore like I used to. I love watching you get stuck with a player that you didn't really want because you're just trying to bid it up because you don't think he's going for the right value. It's awesome.
I'm still so mad. I don't remember I don't know if you guys remember last year. I lost my mind because I got bid up on Lamar Jackson, and the only person I wanted going into the draft was Lamar Jackson, and somehow I didn't get him, and I was so furious, and I should have just done it.
And I think it was this guy. It's not Sean, but I think it's Renee who's in our league who jumped on him. I feel like Renee had like both Lamar Jackson and someone else pretty good. Like had two good quarterbacks and spent a lot of money on two good quarterbacks. So we'll see what happens.
I was so pissed.
I'm not ready this year. I have no prep work. I am not ready.
Yeah. And everyone loves this tactic. We're in an auction league, and we have everyone else in the league is really weird. It'll be like, it's $260 league. Running backs, basically the top guys go for between $70 and $105, just the way the league is built. And it'll start out, Saquon Barkley, 1, 2, 3, and I'm like 91. Let's go. Come on. We got places to go. Let's hurry up here. Actually, it works sometimes. I usually get one of those running backs when I jump the bid. Probably everyone laughed at me. I think was it McCaffrey's rookie year? I jumped him up, and everyone's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Had him for like $63, and now who knows what it'll go for 110.
I predicted, Justin, that Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes for 130 in this league.
In the Kansas City League.
I don't know. I don't even know who these people are you're talking about. I'm not prepared.
Oh, he's so sandbagging right now. This is ridiculous.
And I'm going to be doing another draft simultaneously.
Oh, no.
But I care about that league way less. And I don't really care about our league, but I care about that other league less.
Wow.
So
something like that.
Don't try to set us up. My expensive receivers off the board, then I just have to sit and wait until later rounds anyway to try to get a $13 running back.
Right. This is in a couple of days. Here's Justin. What? Michael who?
$5, I guess.
I'll go 6. Then I jump in. 74. Yeah, exactly. He's Brady. He's got the whole G-damn draft board right behind him. He's already done. He's got all the numbers, everything behind him. He's prepped. What else do you have going on? Come on, running Battleborn injury. It's not that busy. Although I've been at the office a couple times this week, it's busy. There's usually something going on. There's a buzz going on. So I want to remind everyone. Well, just tell everyone. We are efforting getting the stuff up, getting our podcast up audio-wise, so you don't have to watch the video. So we're on Spotify. We're working on iTunes. We're working on Stitcher. We're working on Google podcasts. So we'll see if there's a couple others that these shows need to be on, but they, fingers crossed, should be on at least the big 3 or 4 podcast providers in just a couple of days. And there you go.
Going with a name? Is that the deal? Law and Sporter?
That's how I've labeled it. Law and Sporter is our legal podcast name, although it'll be tagged on Twitter still as Vegas Battleborn Injury Podcast, because I'm not sure that we're going to build up another Twitter handle, but that's to be decided.
Can we do like a incredibly bad drawn logo that's like like a child drawing?
A gavel, but a baseball bat?
Is that what you would like?
Yeah.
Because we have a graphics guy, but I'm sure he could actually make one that looks terrible as a joke.
I don't know. Let's see what the graphics guy comes up with first.
Okay. He's very highly paid, so I'm saving up my money week by week. He can do a logo for us every week, but otherwise I don't want to overload him. So, all right, everybody, we appreciate it. We're back tomorrow. We'll see who the crew is. I know Plus Money Honey will be in, and beyond that, I'll be here, and we'll figure something out. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know if anyone's coming back and playing, and another day of what's going on in Wisconsin. So craziness, and Ari nailed it. Yep, the vast graphics crew has nothing to do with Lotus this time, but